So they would start giving me feedback which helped me correct many of the misconceptions they had taken in during my talk. I was amazed. And also I learned that usually whatever I said in the last 5 minutes was the thing that was brought out first. They pretty much put the introduction in the back burner. So I made this into a practice. The result was they would stay awake during my sessions because they knew questions were coming. They wouldn't escape. And so I think it's important to find the time whenever you're addressing your students to get some feedback, whichever way you feel comfortable. Now, in a large audience, you don't pick on people. I would not pick on this august body and say, what did you get out of this talk? But anyways, for students, I think it's important that they know that they will be asked about the impact of whatever you're presenting to them. Even one fact, 2 facts, and if 10 of the students say 1 fact each, you got 10 facts. And the most important thing I learned from that was I was able to clarify many of the things which they had misunderstood. That I think was important. The result was I was given a Teacher of the Year award many times in the medical school and so on. And yesterday I described this experience in Jordan as an examiner for the final year medical students, when one of the local examiners just grilled the student on brucellosis and nothing else. You have to give the students a choice. You cannot just be focused on what's on your mind. You have to be open, broad-minded, and give them an opportunity to tell you what they know, rather than try to dig out what they don't know. What they don't know, they will learn eventually. Nobody knows everything. I mean, if I took an exam these days, I would not pass with all the information that's out there. A little change of scenery. This is the place I grew up in. It looks a little different from this part of the world. Okay. We are blessed with, Kashmir is blessed with mountains, lakes, forests, and that's the beauty. Allah has been kind to that part of the world. Very natural paradise. Unfortunately, we have turned into a disaster. Environmental disaster, with war all over the place, with killings and so on. So that's where I spent my youth. And then you know what this is. Manhattan. It's another jungle. And these tall buildings. People are afraid, you come from New York, it must be very difficult. But that's again the impression you get by looking at this picture of Manhattan. You go outside New York City, it's like any other place. Nice suburbs and good schools and very diverse community. Any food you want to eat in the world is available in New York. I mentioned that anecdote about the nurse and me as an intern. I put that in the introduction in this book, which we wrote as a guide for all the program directors as well as towards the students. What to expect when you are reviewing credentials. Getting 90 or 100 in Kashmir is unknown. If you get a 60, you are a very good student. Now, if you get the same grade in United States, you are a C student. Because 90 and above is almost a norm for A students. So when I'm a program director, I get this application from a very bright student from some place in the world, and the score in the exam is 60. I say, if I don't know the grading systems of the countries, I would be very unfair and reject a lot of good applicants. So we pointed all those things out in this book. We'll skip this. I mentioned this already. Okay. In a study conducted at University of Manitoba in Canada, 162 staff and 120 residents were asked, who's your role model? And let's see what they said. So both the faculty as well as the students. And I showed you this. These are the characteristics which they identified for a good role model. Communication skills, feedback skills, respect, role modeling, teaching skills, and competence. And of these, they identified from the faculty, the students did, the good role models, and to the student and vice versa. Now, what would I recommend to you folks? when you are supervising a student. Particularly if you are in a hospital setting. It may not be as applicable in a basic science setting, but again, I think the principles are general. We need to be very clear about role and responsibility. Okay, Ahmed, you're coming to this class. This is a 3-week block. These are the things we expect you to do during this time. Just lay it out. What are your expectations? What are you expecting the student to do? So they'll have something to look at, to kind of develop. If you're on the, no, even here, the student needs to be comfortable that you are available. And this was a big complaint I received from many of my trainees, that the consultants give us the impression that once the hours are over, don't bother us. Okay? That's not a good sign. If you are supervising a unit, you need to be available. Don't leave the whole burden on the trainee. The trainee needs to be comfortable that even if it's 3 in the morning, he or she can pick up the phone and call you and get advice. So, instead of saying, call me when there is a problem, it might be better to say, feel free to call me at any time. See? Just a difference of a few words. And of course then demonstrate it with action also. In almost every hospital I've gone to, this is a usual complaint from the junior doctors, that the consultants give us the impression that they are bothered when we call them. And if you leave that impression, then they're not going to call you. And if they don't call you, it's likely that problems will arise. And again, set example by doing and not just by saying. As I mentioned earlier, when I started as chief of medicine, how I dealt with this issue, taking on the toughest assignment myself and thereby demonstrating that work is work. Doesn't matter who you are. And another thing I did setting the example was basically in my department of medicine, we had a research also. And I was the largest generator of research grants. So when somebody would come to me and say, I don't have the time, I say, yeah, but I'm running the whole department. How come I can find the time and you can't find the time to write a grant application, to get the studies and so on and so forth. So if you set that tone from the top, it's very difficult for the rest of the staff to say, I can't do it. There may be logistic issues which they need help with staffing and so on, but you need to set the example. So, for faculty as mentors, you need to emphasize professionalism, teamwork, honesty, responsibility, and learning is lifelong. And I mentioned this medical issue. Student refuses to take clerkship exam. And the other, now that it's here on the slide, let me talk about this temper tantrum. So I was the chief of pulmonary medicine at Queen's Hospital Center, and we used to get rotators from another hospital who come for chest rotation in their second year of residency. So I get this call from the head nurse of one of the wards. She said, this resident needs help. He has thrown, he's out of control. So I called him down. I said, what is the problem? The issue was, he used to bring a sandwich lunch and put it in the fridge to eat. And when he went to look for it, somebody had eaten it. That was the issue. And for that, he started cursing everybody, he started banging the walls, and he started doing this, and he's obviously very disproportionate response to this thing which should not have happened, but it happened. So I said, sit down, young man, we have a problem here. What's the issue? So he started opening up. He said, since childhood I've had this uncontrolled anger, uncontrolled temper, and when I used to have it at home, my father would take me for an ice cream. I said, look, we are past that stage now. Well, and then he started opening up. He had problems. He could not find a wife and so on, so on. So I sent him for psychiatric help. And it was clear that he had a issue which needed to be addressed, uncontrolled rage, road rage. He told me that once he got, New York, we have so many cars. He wouldn't have this problem here, I'm sure. He got blocked into somebody parked in front, somebody parked behind, and he couldn't get out. So what did he do? He started banging till he broke his arms. So clearly he had a medical issue. So we sent him for professional help, and believe it or not, 2 years later he came back to thank me. He said, that changed my life. I got professional help, and I got married. I'm settled now. I'm finishing my hematology oncology. So again, these are, when you are in this business for a long stretch of time, you will run into these kinds of issues. And again, this is an example of looking at the students' issues, the trainees' issues, and trying to help instead of just putting the foot down. It's like our government, US government. I shouldn't be saying this, but anytime there's any problem, they send a drone. It's not going to solve the problem. You have to address the root cause. And unless you address the root cause, the problems are going to just move from one place to another place. So, if you are a supervisor and your student is having a problem, is it the student? Is it the system? Are you expecting them to do things which you cannot support? Okay. Now, for example, I make an official memo. From now on, all my records will be electronic. But if you don't have an electronic medical system that works, it's not going to work. So the system needs to be supportive of the rules and regulations that you're setting up. And is it the supervisor? The supervisor might be a problem. And I have seen teachers who I would not take a single class with, because all they would do is shout and curse, okay? And sometimes beat you up also. So the problem can be at different levels. The good supervisor's qualities we talked about. We need to be clear about responsibilities. We need to be available whenever there's an issue. Feel free to call, not call me when there's a problem. Even if you anticipate a problem, call me. Now I should put a text me or email me. I mean, this is so many things have changed. These slides get old within a few years.